the Alma thing is a red herring. Certainly can mean virgin. Now, doesn't necessarily mean that Ahaz would have thought of that, or that the original prophecy was about a virgin. We still haven't, we're going to get there. But the word itself can mean virgin. Emmanuel is actually three parts. The preposition im, with. Nu is the suffix pronoun us. And el is God, either small g God or big G God. It's used as a common noun and a proper noun. So together they form the sentence without a verb. There is no verb. God, the words are literally with us, God. So you can translate that God with us, God is with us, or a God is with us. All three of those are completely legitimate, because that's all you have. Now, God with us is probably the most familiar. God is with us would probably be the most grammatically correct. God is with us, though, doesn't necessarily mean deity incarnate, though, because I can say, hey, God's with us. Ahaz, God is with us, meaning God's on our side. Doesn't have to mean that like God is going to be present, that this child is going to be God, and when he's born, that's God. Okay? It doesn't mean that at all. We look at that because of what happens in the New Testament as being sort of where our mind goes. But to Ahaz doesn't have any of that. It's a sign for him that God is going to take care of the problem. And by the way, sometimes I think we miss in Isaiah 7 that the point of the sign is not the woman. Okay, a lot of ink spilled about virgin birth and all that stuff. The point of the sign is not the woman, it's the child. Yeah, we kind of get that a little messed up. Now here's also from BeliefNet. The second problem in their article with this text is that when Isaiah wrote it, the city of Jerusalem was under siege from the combined armies of the northern kingdom and Syria. Isaiah suggested that the birth of this child would be a sign to the king of Judah that his nation would not fall to these enemies, whom Isaiah described as, quote, the tales of two smoking firebrands, unquote. A reference to a child born 800 years later would hardly have been relevant to that crisis. Well, I would agree with that. If you're Ahaz and you're basically trembling in your boots, and Isaiah comes up to you, I got great news. Don't panic. 800 years from now, it's like, what? I mean, come on. Oh, thanks. I feel so much better. It's just not going to work. All right? There's an original context for what he's saying. It's really interesting. There are some things going on, even in the original prophecy, that Ahaz could have latched onto and thought, catch my wording here, and thought a little bit beyond his own time. One of those possibilities is that there is a cognate term, a related term in a different language. The language is Ugaritic, for Alma. Now, in Hebrew, it's Alma. The letter is pronounced in the back of the throat, and that's why it gets transliterated sometimes with a G in certain books, like Gomorrah. It actually begins with the same letter that Alma begins with, but it sounds like a G. This word actually is very, very rare, and it refers to the sacred bride, and it's restricted to royal women and goddesses in that culture. Now, that was a pagan culture, but the city of Ugarit is right next door to Israel. There's a lot of Ugaritic crossover within the Hebrew Bible, too, other words. That's kind of interesting because it might mean that when Isaiah comes to Ahaz and says, behold, the Alma will conceive and bear a son, that he could have been talking about Ahaz's wife. And if you were Ahaz, what would be the first thing that crossed your mind? How do you know that? Like, is there something I should know about? If there is, tell me now. How do you know that my wife, and it actually could be that she is pregnant or is going to conceive? We don't know who the woman was. That's one possibility. If it is Ahaz's wife, that means, and then Isaiah says, and when she has the child, you're going to name it, God is with us. Why is that important to Ahaz? If that turns out to be, we don't really know. Because it tells Ahaz what? Whose family does Ahaz belong to? David. Okay, it means that Ahaz is sitting there thinking, we're going to get wiped out. The northern kingdom, he said, is going to be gone, in a few decades. What about us? Because I'm the line of David. And God gave David this promise that, we're always going to be here, and there's this everlasting dynastic commitment and fulfillment. And Isaiah is saying, yeah, I know. God is with you. Okay, if it is his wife, it's a sign that the Davidic covenant will not die. Okay, it's not going to go away. It's not going to end. Okay, God will remain loyal to it. Again, let's just play with it. If that's the case, if there was royalty involved with the woman, why is that important for what Matthew does? Mary is a member of what line? So there's these boring genealogies again. I know they're boring, okay? And I don't spend my time with genealogies, please. Don't think that of me. But there is a point to them. Mary is also in the line of David. So is Joseph. I mean, this is something that Matthew, if this is what he was tracking on, it would have been a link back to Isaiah 7. Because, I mean, think of what Matthew's doing here. Here's the quotation, and I have two questions here. This is where Matthew quotes Isaiah 7. Put yourself in Matthew's shoes. Is it reasonable to believe that Matthew and Mary never met? I mean, good grief, they lived with Jesus for 3.5 years. Do you think he might have met his mother? Is it reasonable to believe that the disciples never heard Mary tell the story about how Jesus was born? I mean, I can tell you, if I was one of the 12 and we were like sitting around dinner at Jesus' house someday and he like wasn't in the room, I'd say, was there anything unusual about him when he was little? Because there's some really unusual things going on right now. Can you tell me about that? I mean, anything at all. Anything like amiss? Anything like, did he do something really weird? Because you're beginning to see this man do incredible things. I think that would be a very natural conversation. It would be very natural for Matthew to have heard about the circumstances of Jesus' birth. What I'm getting to is this. Why is it so fantastic for Matthew, who knew his Old Testament really well, to hear the story of Jesus' birth and Mary's going, oh yeah, the angel came to me and said, the baby you're going to, I mean, Joseph and I we were betrothed, but we had never, what, and I mean, we were loyal to each other, we were faithful to each other, and all of a sudden I'm pregnant, and, gives all the stories. And then she gets to the part where they had to take the child down to Egypt to protect him from Herod. And Matthew, then the lights are going on. Ding, 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 ding. Why? Because Matthew knows Hosea 11, verse 1, because Matthew quotes it, out of Egypt I have called my son. Remember the first week we talked about how my son was the nation and the servant and the individual who would do these things in Isaiah. And he starts thinking about Isaiah. It's like wow, Davidic dynasty out of Egypt, really, virgin birth, holy cow, virgin birth. Well, that's just like Alma. I mean, it's not quite the same, but it's like, there's an analogy there. Look what God was up to. I'm going to put this down.